श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की, लाडली लाल की। गुरु राधना दिश्च गुरुः परमदैवतम् गुरुः परतरं नास्ति कृपालु गुरवे नमः। कस्तूरी तिलकं ललाट पटले वक्षः स्थले कौस्तुभम् नासाग्रे वरमौक्तिकम् करतले वेणुः करे कंकणम् सर्वांगे हरिचन्दनं सुललितम् कंठे च मुक्तावली गोपस्त्री परिवेष्टितो विजयते गोपाल चूड़ामणि नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गद रुद्धया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Respected devotees of Sri Maharaj Ji, respected viewers, Radhe Radhe. I think I need a little more volume. Radhe Radhe. जय जय राधा रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय राधा रमना, जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय राधा रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय 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 राधा रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय राधा रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय राधा रमना, राधा रमना, गोपी जन जीवना, राधा रमना। जय जय राधा Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Jai Jai Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana. Gopi Jana Jivana, Radha Ramana.
श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की। I ended my talk last night with a question. Some people today wonder if they can accept Shri Maharaj Ji, Jagadguru Shree Kripaluji Maharaj as their guru when he is visible only on television. Such people should understand what the Vedas say about a guru, Rather, a true, genuine, God-realized personality. Gumrotiti Guruhu, the one who is capable of dispelling the darkness of ignorance, is a true Guru. Girati Ajnanam iti Guruhu, the one who eliminates or destroys ignorance, is a true Guru. Grinati Jnanam iti Guruhu, the one who imparts perfect divine knowledge, is a true Guru. And all of these attributes of a divine personality are fully manifest in Sri Maharaj's divine dignity. Sri Maharaj's divine personality and his legacy are not two separately existing realities. They are one and the same. They are synonymous. Sri Maharaj's divine association in the form of his divine teachings, his knowledge, his philosophy, his compositions, his divine kirtans, bhajans, his satsangs, his legacy is through and through the personification of Sri Radha Krishna's divine love. Therefore, Sri Maharaj's legacy is the living proof of his divine excellence and his divine stature, his divine dignity. The inner gratification that we as individuals under the sway of Maya have sought since time immemorial through relentless, meaningless material pursuits can be felt, can be realized, and can be experienced through Sri Maharaj's divine satsangs. Sri Maharaj's kirtans, his compositions, are infused or saturated with the bliss of Radha Krishna love. Such is the lusciousness and the sweetness that even a non-believer of God, an atheist, someone who considers himself a non-believer of God, even if such an individual heard Sri Maharaj's divine kirtans, I know for sure he would agree that they are so rust-stricken. They're so full of bliss and so extremely gratifying and so uplifting. Many, many years ago, Sri Maharaj's divine pads, the Leela compositions, as Sri Maharaji has revealed in the form of Prem Ras Madira. So, for the first time, they were being recorded in a studio in Mumbai. One of Sri Maharaji's satsangis, Shakuntala ji, was there. She was the one who Maharaji sent for the recording. And so it was described that as she was chanting, the musicians there, whoever was playing the drum and the flute and various other musical instruments. They were so captivated, they were so enticed by the divine vibrations and just the divinity of Sri Maharaji, the sweetness that was permeating that studio, that they could not sit still. They were so intoxicated with that. It just was so attractive. I was once in India, and I was on my way to Delhi. So I was told that Sri Maharaji is in Faridabad and that I could have Sri Maharaji's darshan on my way to Delhi. So the house where Sri Maharaji was, it was hard to find. And so after making so many turns and asking a couple of people the directions, etc., and so we finally made it closer to the house, but even so, we could not find the house. But what led us to the house was Sri Maharaji's kirtan. I heard Sri Maharaji's kirtan, and I told the bhaiya who was driving, I said, "We're here." I said, "We're very close," because I heard Sushree Didi chanting. And it was so exciting, and I was so excited because even though, of course, I've been hearing Sri Maharaji's kirtan since I was age 2, but just the feeling and the emotion that arises in the heart, like as soon as you hear Maharaji's chantings, it's so exciting. So, and of course, we were so close. And then, of course, I saw the whole driveway was covered with shoes. So I knew that was where Sri Maharaji was. So what I'm trying to say is that is Sri Maharaji's legacy, and his satsangs are the proof of his gracious personality. What more could we expect to accept and to appreciate that Sri Maharaji should be our guru? Moreover, it is very difficult to determine the true nature of anyone, let alone a saint, by merely witnessing or observing their external behavior. A saint who has realized God and is the perfect knower of all the divine scriptures can only be known by another saint of his level, because a saint's identity, just like God, cannot be grasped by material mind, body, and mind, intellect, and senses. No. Nonetheless, a saint's divinity has to be recognized in 3 different ways: perceptual, inferential, and scriptural evidence. If this were not the case, then no one could have attained God. No. So although recognizing a saint definitely takes time and effort, if one so desires to meet God, they must do it. It is imperative, actually, to make any effort to evaluate the identity of a saint is as ridiculous as a child learning alphabet evaluating the knowledge of a university professor. Yet, innumerable aspirants have identified a guru, surrendered to a guru, followed his teachings, and also realized and attained God. So Sri Maharaji tells us that there are 3 points that we should understand. the first and foremost, or the first and the foremost proof of a saint's divinity is that his vision, darshan, and his association, it induces naturally attachment to God in the mind and detachment from the world in the mind. Now, this attachment to God, it varies from person to person. And Sri Maharaji has often given the analogy of a magnet. We place a magnet and put needles around the magnet. Now, the needle that will be made of pure iron will be automatically drawn toward the magnet. But the needle that has any bit of impurity, it will be slower. It will take time. And the one that is significantly impure will not even budge. So in the same way, during the descension of saints and God-realized personalities, souls who came into contact with them, pure-hearted souls were immediately drawn and attracted. Just by their mere vision and their darshan was enough for them to fall for them. And those whose heart were impure, they, while some took time, whereas others were not favorable at all. On the contrary, they ridiculed the saint or made fun or criticized the saint. So, association of a saint induces naturally detachment from the world and attachment to God. And being the second point, being well versed in the scriptures, the saint very naturally and very practically removes all the difficulties and the doubts and queries and resolves all kinds of questions that an aspirant encounters on the devotional path. Once, Sri Maharaji was reciting a verse, and the devotees who were there, Sri Maharaji told them, repeat after me. So the devotees repeated the verse after Sri Maharaji. And then at the end, Sri Maharaji says, अब आप लोगों को पता चल गया कि हम गधों को भी पढ़ा सकते हैं. So Sri Maharaji said, कि now you all know that I can also teach. Literally, gadha means donkey, but I guess the implied sense is dummies. And we're all dummies. It's good to be dummy. Anyway, so, and the third direct proof or evidence of the genuineness of a saint can be deduced from witnessing the ocean of divine love in his heart externally manifesting in the form of various states of ecstatic divine emotions. However, we must bear in mind that recognizing a saint, it takes time. It doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But it does happen. And also the scriptures mention faith as a prerequisite. And one point that we must remember, more importantly, is that a saint's divinity can never be recognized on the basis of intellectual analysis. No way. Faith. It is faith. Yes. So, while devotees who could not be in Sri Maharaji's direct divine presence could not have his personal, direct, physical association, I know their hearts are heavy. And rightfully so. But Sri Maharaji's divine words, they give us hope. That we are no exception to the grace that he so abundantly showered on anyone and everyone who had the good fortune of being in his direct presence. So what are those words? हरि गुरु सदा सर्वत्र है ऐसा ही मानो, लीला संवरण की बात कभी ना सोचो, मैं सदा शरणागत के साथ रहूंगा. Hari Guru, God and Guru, Sada, always, Sarvatra, all pervading, everywhere. They are. Always remember. Aisa hi socho. Always think like this. And do not entertain the thoughts of that, or never entertain the thoughts that my earthly pastimes have ceased, because I am always with my surrendered souls. In other words, he never leaves us. What more could we expect than this direct promise of Sri Maharaj Ji? Once Sri Maharaj Ji was heading back after his lecture to wherever he was staying, and on the way, Sri Maharaj Ji told the driver that he wanted to have chai. So the driver pulled up in front of a hotel, which Sri Maharaj Ji turned down, and he said, no, let's go further. So then the driver pulled up in front of another hotel, but even that Sri Maharaj Ji turned down. So he drove further, and then they came upon a roadside chai stand. So Sri Maharaj Ji said, I'll have the chai here, from here. So the driver was kind of wondering, like, why Sri Maharaj Ji turned down the hotels, and yet he wanted to have chai from such a simple chai stand. In any case, he pulled up, he went to the chai wala and told him to make chai. And so when he was paying him, the driver saw in his little cash box, he saw a picture of Sri Maharaj Ji. And he saw Maharaj Ji's picture, so he asked him, do you know him? And he said, yes, I know him. And I wanted to go see him, and I had saved up money to go see him, but unfortunately my money was stolen. And so I couldn't go. So the driver said, okay, well, go give this chai to the person who's sitting in the car. So the chaiwala said, well, I don't think I can, because I'm afraid I'll lose my money again. So the driver said, don't worry, I will watch over your money. You go. And he went. And when he went, one can only imagine what happened. His heart melted when he saw Maharaj Ji in the car. He couldn't help. His tears streaming from his eyes. And Maharaj Ji said to him, Tumne kaha tha? Because he had conviction, he had full faith in his heart that one day he will come to me. So Maharaj Ji said to him, Tumne kaha tha ki hum tumhare paas aayenge? You said that I will come to you, and here I am now, and you're still crying. So, such is our Maharaj Ji. Faith is all we need to feel his closeness, to feel his grace, to feel his protection. It's faith. That's it. So, can we accept him? Yes, of course. Yes. It is an emphatic yes. Coming back to the teachings of Rupa Goswami Ji, Ado Shraddha Tatah Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya Tato Nartha Nivrittisya Tato Nishtharuchis Tatah Athasaktis Tato Bhavas Tatah Prema Bhyudanchati Sadhakanam Mayam Premnah Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramah. So, sincere and positive faith is required sincere and positive faith in a true saint is required to receive the benefit of his association. It is the most fortunate day of an aspirant's life when he finds his spiritual master, because his profound faith in that divine personality is the proof that he is halfway toward divine realization. With the grace of the saint, that aspirant is introduced to what is known as the devotional path. His devotional journey has now begun. The knowledge that is contained within the scriptures is like a vast ocean. And the profoundness of its wisdom is so fathomless that only a few rare souls have ever mined the depths of that knowledge, bringing it to the surface for the greater good of all of us humans as seekers. For most people, knowledge is acquired in parts and from different places and different people. And that too, limited to the understanding capability and purity of the heart. There is a popular saying that we all may have heard, that little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And this is also true in the spiritual realm. Because without the practical application of spiritual principles, the pride that one derives, or that the pride rather that emerges from that knowledge, can act as an impediment to one's spiritual growth. And our Sri Maharaji often spoke greatly about spiritual sadhana, or the practical application of spiritual principles. At the heart of this knowledge, as Sri Maharaji has bestowed upon us, is the loving remembrance of God. So regular and systematic practice of the loving remembrance of God, it reduces our inclination to commit sin. And what is sin? Sin is any moment when our mind is not thinking about God and Guru. That is a sin. So in time, with the grace of God and Guru, what will happen? The heart will soften, love will deepen, as we realize more and more the actual presence of God, and it will blossom in our life. So Sri Maharaji always told us that we must always remember that God is with us always. and that we are never alone. But how can we cultivate this? How can we practically realize this? So Sri Maharaji laid out a few very simple steps for us to avail of. And what are they? First, set aside time to spend in solitude, to engage the mind in the loving remembrance of God and Guru. We can take the help of a kirtan, bhajan. The main thing is that we must engage and immerse our mind in their loving thoughts. The second point is we must not be lazy in spiritual education. We must revise and reflect daily. The third, we must remember and realize their presence with us. Their presence with us. If you work in an office, make a spot, make a place for him to stand or sit. If you are a taxi driver, make him sit in the seat next to you, but do not leave God at home or in your mandir. No. Realize his presence, along with the presence of Guru, of course. Any spare time we must utilize as an opportunity to engage in remembrance. It should not be wasted. From every hour on hour, we must remember, we must think that God is with me, He is watching me. And when this becomes a practice, what do? Reduce it to 45 minutes, and then gradually to half hour, and then to 15 minutes, and so on. Death can approach us at any time, and therefore we must not procrastinate devotional practice. Point number 7. Our mind is our greatest enemy. We must not listen to our mind. Rather, we should adhere to the principles of the scriptures as explained to us by our Guru. And before sleeping at night, we must reflect. How much did I remember God and Guru today? And we must resolve to improve the following day. So these are the simple yet profound steps as elucidated by Sri Maharaji. And in order to practice these, we must have faith. Because faith makes God manifest before us. It is with faith that we accept the sacred teachings of the scriptures and the utterances of the great masters. Sometimes aspirants wonder how they can gauge the depth of their faith. This is a very good question that requires retrospection. There are so many stories of great devotees in our scriptures that serve as a benchmark for us all treading the path of divine love realization. There was once a priest whose service was to serve the deities in the temple. And so he had a boy, 8 years old, who was with him as his assistant. So one day, the priest had to go out And so he told the little boy to serve the deities in the same way as he does. So the boy served the food, the bhog, and he closed the curtains, but every so often he would peek behind the curtains to see if the food had dissipated, if God had eaten the food. But much to his dismay, the food remained untouched. So the boy thought, I guess they're mad because the priest is not around. So the next day he served the food, but the same thing happened. The food remained untouched. And so several days passed in this manner until finally one day, out of exhaustion, the boy said, "You have left me with no option but to take the matters into my own hands." And so brandishing a stick, he said, "Let's see if you eat now." For this little boy, God was actually, he wholeheartedly believed that God was there in front of him. For him, the deities were not lifeless statues, by the way. So what was God to do? He emerged from the deities and accepted his offering. In fact, he ate so much that the boy yelled out, "Hey, save some for me." And so, with all the flour gone, he borrowed from the neighbor, but even that was all gobbled up by God. A few days later, when the priest returned, he was mad to see how much the boy had spent. And he said, "You were here by yourself. How come you spent so much? You were here all alone." So the boy said, "What could I do? God ate it all." And so the priest retorted. He said, "What nonsense is this? Do deities eat?" And the boy said, "Yes, I can show you." So he showed him. He offered the food, and the offering, as the priest could see, was disappearing. Even though he could not see, he could not visualize God, but he saw, and he was so humbled and impressed. Whereas the little boy, because of his faith, he could see Supreme God manifesting, appearing, and accepting the bhog. Some people are confused about the great sage Valmiki Ji. Valmiki Ji, before he became Valmiki, he was known as Ratnakar. His heart was so fallen and so sinful that he could not utter the divine name of Bhagwan Ram. Ram, he could not utter Ram. So his guru told him that he could utter the name as in whatever way that he could. And this has been affirmed by Goswami Tulsidas Ji in the Ramayana. Ulta naam japa jag jana Valmiki bhai Brahm samana. So Valmiki Ji, he uttered the name, but in a reverse manner. So instead of saying Ram, he said Mara, Mara. Shri Maharaj Ji has also made a doha, a couplet in the Radha Govind Geet. Mara, Mara, Naam Jap, Govind Radhe, Valmiki ko bhi Brahmarshi bana de. Such is the potency and the power of God's name that a hardened criminal like Valmiki, who could not pronounce Ram, and instead he pronounced Mara, and even so he was transformed into a Brahmarshi. Such is the power of God's name. So someone may question, that Mara Mara is not the name of God. It is not the name of God. So if Valmiki chanted Mara Mara, how is it possible that God would manifest himself? There's no way. Instead of chanting Ram Ram, if he chanted Mara Mara, how could God possibly be pleased? Anyone in the world, any worldly person with a limited mind, intellect, and senses may think that that may be possible, but God is omniscient. He is all-knowing. Of course, he knows that his name is not being chanted. In India, especially, the self-appointed guides, Babas, they mislead the innocent people and they tell him that as Valmiki was chanting Mara, 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 eventually he dropped the first alphabet, Ma. And so he could be heard chanting Ram, 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 Ram. But again, God is omniscient. People of the world could be misled, but of course not God. God is omniscient. Yes. And so he did not chant God's name. And if he did not chant God's name, how could God manifest? How could he appear before him? There's no way. So Sri Maharaji discloses the secret. Sri Maharaji tells us that what people don't understand is that it is only through love and devotion that God manifests himself. So Valmiki, he had firm and unwavering faith in the teachings and the instructions of his guru. So when his guru told him that he could keep saying Mara, 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 Mara until he returned, Valmiki took that word Mara to be the form of God. He did not differentiate, he did not doubt, he did not think even once that his guru was misleading him, not once. He fully embraced the instructions of his guru, and he thought that he will contemplate on that name until his very last breath. And so he fully and sincerely followed the instructions of his guru. That's what he did. And in the process, his body was reduced to a skeleton. God did not manifest himself, nor did his guru come, but it didn't matter to him. Because what mattered to him was the name that his guru gave him was no different than God personified. He did not doubt. He had absolutely no hesitation, no doubt. He had unflinching faith in the teachings and the instructions of his guru. So the secret that Sri Maharaji disclosed is that it was because of his faith, his unwavering faith in his guru, that brought about his redemption. It was the faith in his guru. There was a tribal woman by the name of Shabri, a great devotee who resided in the forests of Dandakaranya in central India during the descension of Bhagwan Ram. And so wandering in the forest, once she came upon a beautiful ashram which was inhabited by many beautiful birds and other wildlife. So that part of the forest was owned by a Muni, a sage by the name of Matanga Muni. So when she came upon his ashram, when she finally reached his ashram, she fell at his lotus feet and begged him to accept her, the most sinful, fallen, orphaned woman as herself into his service. She begged him, and so the gracious sage accepted her, took her into his shelter. So when the time came for him to leave the world, he called Shabri and he told her that after I leave this body, I want you to continue staying in this ashram for one fine day. Bhagwan Ram and his brother Lakshman will come to this ashram. You will invite them, warmly greet them, and serve them. And by doing so, because Bhagwan Ram is Supreme God, his Supreme Divinity, you will achieve the ultimate purpose of your life. So the sage, Matanga Muni, he kindled the fire of devotion in Shabri's heart before departing the world. And so Shabri, according to the wishes of her guru, was waiting eagerly for Bhagwan Ram to arrive. Every day, she would lovingly clean the path that led to the ashram, clean it very lovingly and decorate it with flower petals. The thought was always in her mind that Bhagwan Ram could come at any time. Day and night, she engrossed herself in his loving remembrance. She was carrying out meticulous preparations in anticipation of welcoming and greeting the Lord. And finally, one day, in search of his divine eternal consort, Sita Ji, Bhagwan Ram came with his brother Lakshman. That auspicious day finally arrived. Shabri was a great ascetic. She was a very accomplished yogini. And so her heart, brimming with joy and love, with folded hands, she greeted the Lord and fell at his feet in a spirit of full surrender. His beautiful blue body, his long arms, strong shoulders, and his long matted hair wound over his head in careless abandon, and his beautiful swaying garland of wild forest fragrant flowers, along with his beautiful fair complexioned brother Lakshman, fulfilled her long cherished dream. She was ecstatic. Overcome by the depths of her emotions, Bhagwan Ram lifted her and he said, "Oh dear one, your selfless worship and dedication to your guru has finally bore fruit. It is your devotion and dedication to him. And the fact that you followed his divine wishes so sincerely and so wholeheartedly, you have reaped the final fruits of your human life." Shabri became God realized. She received the vision of Bhagwan Ram. How? Because she followed the wishes and the instructions of her guru. Guru Samartha Ramdas had a disciple. His name was Ambadas. He was a very good devotee, and Guru Samartha Ramdas was very pleased with his service, with his attitude towards service. So one day he called him during the midday, and he told him to cut a branch of the applewood tree, Bilva. And he told him to cut the branch, that by sitting on it, to cut the branch. So when some of the disciples heard what his guru's instructions were, they thought that it was somewhat peculiar. So they told him, they advised him, and they said, you should not sit on the branch that you're going to cut. You should sit on a different branch and then cut the one to obey the guru's instructions. But Ambadas he said, no, I will do exactly what Guruji has told me to do, come what may. So he cut the branch, and of course, he went straight into the well below. It was right there, and he fell into the well. And as he was falling, he remembered. So the faith he had in his Guru made him remember Bhagwan Ram. And when he got to the bottom of the well, he saw that there was no water. He looks up and he sees Bhagwan Ram in a cheerful mood, looking at him, looking upon him, smiling upon him. And overwhelmed with joy, he pranamed to Bhagwan Ram and started shedding tears. But hearing the splash, the crash, he went crashing into the well, his guru, Samartha Ramdas, came with other disciples, calling him, are you okay? And as he was coming out of the well, he said to his guru, yes, Guruji, I'm well. Serving your wish led to my kalyan, led to my spiritual, kalyan means spiritual welfare. So his guru said, from today, your name is Kalyan, not Ambadas. He realized God, followed his guru's instructions. So all of these accounts that I just narrated, there's only one message that is echoed through and through. What is it? Blind faith. Even though these illustrate the epitome of faith, the ultimate height of faith in Guru, our goal should be that. And in order to reach that height, what should we do? Sri Maharaj is not telling us to sit on a branch and cut that exact same branch and so that we can end up in the well. He's not telling us to do anything like that. We're not in the forest doing eating the kandamul and those berries and all of that. We don't have to do anything like that. So to reach that height of faith, we nurture faith. We nurture faith by cultivating it, nurturing it by means of spiritual sadhana, as laid out by Sri Maharaji. Sri Maharaji has simplified it so much for us that we take, I know I do, I can speak for myself, take for granted. Because when we get too much of something, we tend to not realize its importance and its value. But Sri Maharaji has given us so much. He's literally put the morsel in our mouth. He just put the morsel in our mouth of that ras, of that divine love, and he's telling us, just drink it. Just drink it. That's it. That's all you have to do. But such is our mind that even that we doubt. Oh, but that means that I'm going to have to give up my worldly attachments. What will happen to my worldly attachments? We're so afraid. We're so apprehensive. We're so skeptical. How ignorant of us. So we have the best and the grandest and the greatest opportunity at our disposal. Sri Maharaji has done everything for us. He has, in fact, brought us to God realization. All we have to do is nurture that level of faith, and we'll be good for eternity. For eternity. So how blessed we are, words fall short. Words fall short. But we are so awfully, incredibly blessed and beyond and beyond. So if we simply embrace Sri Maharaji's divine teachings, then he will reward us for our faith. And he will reward us how? He will give himself to us forever. He already has his own everything. Everything. So as that chanting that Rishina was chanting yesterday during the Jhulan, Lutao unko luto. What was the word? So luto unko, lutao unko. Everything lutao. Just sacrifice yourself on him. And what else is there to do? What else is the purpose of this life? We have lutao our life in infinite times for the world. Why not sacrifice this life? Just give it a shot. Try it. Why not? It is so amazingly, incredibly worth everything, all sacrifices. So he will reward us for our faith. He's waiting eagerly to glorify us and shower us and drench us with divine love. So I will leave you with these thoughts. This is the concluding lecture of my 3-part series on this topic, the reward of faith. And I sincerely and humbly urge you all to please love Maharaji, adore him, and dedicate your heart fully to him. And because he is ours, he was, he is, he will be forever. So I'm so happy for all of you, and happy Rath Yatra. Shrimat Sadguru Sarkar ki, Shrimat Yugal Sarkar ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.